Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you for tuning in to the first ever full-length Southern Stabber Bass Fishing Productions. Today we're going to start it off by, first off, wishing everybody who's graceful enough to live in the southeast happy spring eve. Still pretty cold outside, still pretty miserable. Bass haven't spawned yet, but they're about to be there. And you know, that gives me a little hope moving forward. To the rest of you, I'm sorry. Hope it's not too bad. Hope it doesn't last too much longer, but getting 60 degrees next week, and I think there's going to be some action. So today's episode, we're going to be talking about knots. So when I'm thinking knots, the first things that come to my mind are palamor and the rapala loop knot. Those are just the two things that I use the most. I feel like I don't really need to do anything that can't be solved by one of those two. I like to use the rapala for some crankbaits and some jerkbaits. I tend not to worry about tying that one if they already have the built-in little O-rings for the movement, but that knot definitely does assist in the movement. So when I'm running one of my swivel setups, that'll always be the lead knot, as you can see here. And this, might I add, absolutely stunning 5-inch mega bass shad. I've had a few different colors of the 7 inches. I love them. They're beautiful. Caught me a few good fish. But it's not every day that you're fishing somewhere that's going to hit a 7-inch lure. And so for the longest time, I've sat there and thought, man, I wish they had a 5-inch. Fairly new bait to my knowledge. Extremely glad they dropped that. If you can get your hands on it, I highly suggest it. Haven't got to test it out myself yet. Literally just bought it 2 days ago, but I'm sure it's going to rip. But anyway, to get back to the topic of the video, we're talking knots. I'm also going to throw in some tutorials on how to tie the palamor and the rapala. If anybody's new to fishing and they just want to hear this breakdown of what they're used for, that's great. If you just want to learn how to tie the knots, I'm going to try to timestamp that so you can just skip ahead to that. Maybe watch the full video. It helps a brother out. Getting into fishing, I understand that learning a lot of the knots and when to use them, that is it's a large area of hesitation. It seems like a large skill gap to enter. And I myself, I face that. And coming from a background where somewhat comfortable with knots, I've always been camping and all that. I always learned how to tie basic knots, and I was a Boy Scout when I was a youngin', but I started getting a little too handsome. I got pulled out of that before I could get diddled. You don't want that happening. It tends to make people weird. But anyway, I'm no knot nerd. I don't know everything there is to know. You might see something in this video that you'd like to correct. Feel free. I doubt you do, because I know it better than you. Anyway, so we're just going to get into the basics, when you want to tie these knots, how they'll be used, what their benefits are. We're going to start off with the palamor. As I said earlier, this one really tends to be my go-to. As you can see, it's a very low profile knot. You really can't see that much of it. Probably could have tied it a little nicer, it'd be a little smaller. Can cut my tag ends a little shorter. I tend not to worry about that because I'm bass fishing. They're not that smart. To what I've seen, the palamor is one of the strongest knots when it just comes to straight breaking force. If you want to argue a bunch of different semantics about tension and whatnot, do it. I don't care. I've seen the break force videos. Palamor tends to outperform the rest, so that's the one I'll go with. That's the one I'll trust the most. Excuse me. But as I said, I do lead with a rapala, and that's just because I have 4 poles. I mainly bank fish or fish from a kayak. 4 is already too many. So when it gets down to it, I want quick and easy exchanges. I'm also running a braid to fluoro setup off the FG. So I really don't want to be cutting out fluoro every single time that I want to change a lure, because at the end of the day, FG is annoying as hell to tie. So we're trying to avoid that. Unrelated, as you might have noticed, patriotic braid. Once it gets hot out, you can throw that. They're amped up. They'll hit just about anything shiny, realistically. So yeah. Polymer, going for straight strength. You know, if you're throwing a worm, if you're throwing a Senko, if you're throwing, once again, any chatterbait, any crankbait, any jerkbait that already has that built-in split O to give you movement, go ahead and throw on that polymer. If your thing's broke, if you need to run some sort of swivel gig, rapala loop. I know how to tie a fisherman's knot, as some people call it, improve uni, whatever the hell you want to refer to it as. That's for the birds, man. Once again, I'm bass fishing. Sometimes if I'm like pan fishing, maybe going after crappie with a real small lure, and I can't fit that double through for the Palomar, then I might do improved uni, but I personally just do not see much need for it, therefore I rarely tie it. It's also one of the lesser performing knots, once again, when I've seen break force videos. Also, I've broken things a lot easier off on uni, so I can tell you that from personal experience. Another thing to consider when you're choosing what type of knot you're going to tie is to consider what type of line you're throwing. Personally, I've never tried to tie rapala on braid because in my mind I feel like I already know that's going to be horse and it's not going to work whatsoever, just thinking about how the line works, you know. Braid has absolutely zero give. When I'm throwing braid, especially if it's straight to braid, about the only thing I'm going to be tying is polymer. Because if you're, I don't mean to be discriminatory in lack of better terms, right? But if you're throwing crankbaits and jerkbaits on braid, you need to re-audit your setup. Because it just doesn't make any sense with those types of things. You want a little bit of give. And then that also gives you the option to tie rapala or polymer. Because polymer works perfectly fine on fluoro. Unlike braid, you're kind of limited just polymer. Once again, I don't tie uni. I don't tie improved clinch. Because it's for the birds. Fight me on that. That's for women. Women and children tie uni and clinch. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you learned elsewise. I'm sorry if your grandpappy taught you that clinch was the only thing you needed. He's wrong. He probably would have had pronouns in his bio on Facebook if he was still with us. Sorry, that probably would have been passed along. But yeah, dude, if you're throwing braid, you need to be tying polymer. If you're throwing fluoro, you have a lot more options. If you're throwing mono, why? Why? Just doesn't make sense. Do you still use LTE instead of 5G? No hate. No hate if all you have is mono, but bro, you can get some fluoro for like $10, dog. Like, come on. Shouldn't be fishing if you can't throw away $10. Anyway, you know, I'm kind of starting to ramble here, so I believe we're about to get into the actual tutorial part of the video. I imagine a lot of people are just going to skip through me yapping to get through that. But at the very least, you know, hopefully I help a few people out. I hope I get you to a higher level of understanding of these knots. Because at the end of the day, you can know how to loosely tie something. You can know about how to tie polymer, about how to tie rapala. if you don't actually know exactly how to tie the knot, you're going to be playing 50-50 on if you lose your favorite lure, lose the best fish, whatever the hell, man. Once again, I'm starting to yap. So I'm just going to show you how to tie the knots right now. The first thing we're going to be tying here is the rapala. You're going to start with a simple overhand loop. Feed that down. I like to go ahead and get it as small as I can before I insert that. You're going to take the tail end, drag it through. I like to pinch this little circle as well as the tail end with my middle finger and thumb. Then I'll go ahead and slide my pinky down in there to shape that loop. Be careful not to pull it too tight. I might have just done it there, but hopefully not. And now we're going to, about 7 or 8 times, I'd say 10 is around the max, we're going to start running into complications. We're going to feed this around our main line. Once again, being careful not to shrink up that little loop too small. Now we can go ahead and remove our pinky. Might help you to keep it in there though. And we're going to once again feed that tail end through. Pull it all taut. Expand through the middle. And there we have a nice little strong rapala knot. Obviously you go ahead and cut this tag end. And I would recommend wetting this before you cinch down. Obviously for the ease of video I didn't do it here. But wetting it will help you with getting that proper cinch. I got lucky here and had a beautiful full connection without it. But as I was saying in the prior part of the video, this is an amazing little knot that you need in your toolbox. Alright guys, now we're going to be showcasing the palamor knot. You might see I'm rocking this little clamp instead of my stand. I highly suggest everybody gets himself one of these. The stand's extremely useful, but the suction cup at the bottom of it is useless without this clamp. And as you can see, the clamp helps in some areas that doesn't. So to start off with the palamor, using this as example because I forgot to bring a lure with me. I tend to start off single. Just imagine this gap is the eye of the hook. I start off single, poke it back through. Just with most lures, I find this is the easiest way to achieve this little double strand going through. And then I'm going to take this, make sure I don't lose this tag end up top. I'm going to do a simple overhand with the loop that I've created down here. It can be a little tricky getting your fingers to catch that strand, but after you tie this a few times, you'll have it down no problem. Tighten that just about all the way. Now the most key part is that slip through I just showed you. So you're going to slip through your lure, through the loop you created, and then cinch this down. If you're short on line and you want to save line, only pull this in without the tag end, but make sure this tag end does not escape this inner loop. If this tag end escapes this inner loop, you're going to lose all structure of the knot. There you go. Quick and easy palamor. As I've said, one of the strongest knots you can tie. In my opinion, one of the easiest to learn. I'd just like to end this video by giving out some much needed gratitude. Firstly, I'd like to thank the big man himself, JC. Without him, none of this is possible. With him, everything is possible. Whenever I'm reeling in a lunker, whenever I'm fighting an absolute pig like your mother, first thing that comes to my mind is, man, I wouldn't have this largemouth bass. I wouldn't have this lake. I wouldn't have these 2 feet to stand on if it wasn't for JC. So amen to that. Keep that in your mind. Keep them in your heart. Secondly, I'd like to thank you if you sat here and watched this whole video. Thank you. If you skipped through to the end to where I showed how to tie the knots, thank you. I hope you learned something. If you didn't learn anything, if you already knew everything that I've been over today, chill, bro. It's not a competition. Chillax. But anyway, I just mainly hope that you had a good time and you enjoyed me meandering and trailing off and mispronouncing words. It happens. Okay? Thirdly, I'd like to thank Lululemon. I don't know if you got a peek at my sneaks, at my shorts, earlier when I was showing you how you tie those knots. These Lululemon underpants, bro. Underpants. These Lululemon shorts, man, they might look a little questionable. The color scheme might not be there. Alright, but I'm comfortable. I'm chilling in my house, dude. So usually I color coordinate, alright? You don't gotta get on me about that. But right now I'm trying to be comfortable. And I threw on a fishing shirt to match the occasion. Alright? So my colors are a little off. But these are comfort, man. It's like a blanket. You wouldn't understand unless you have them. So shout out thank you, Lululemon. Finally, I'd like to end this video on a little personal story. You know, as you might have deduced from some of my videos, I currently live in the metro Atlanta area. Meaning I mainly fish off the Chattahoochee. You see that a good bit, right? You see the subdivisions, right? You see where I'm at. I'm sorry, I got a little aggressive for no reason. But I'm from up northwest, and I still go up there a good bit. Northwest Georgia, not too far. Not too far. I still go up there a good bit, right? And I don't like I-75. I don't like the semis. I don't like the other people driving so fast. I can't be speeding, bro. If I get it might be bad news for me if I get pulled over. So I don't like the speed. I don't like the semis. I don't like the GSP. They scare me. They scare you. If you're in Georgia, they scare you, dude. Anyway, so I take the back roads. The back roads have me coming across a lot of farms. I'll drive through the boonies. If you're from the God blessed land of the SEC, you know this. We got a lot of boonies. We also have the best football team in this galaxy. Fuck the nation. Never mind the world. Galaxy. You think some Martians run the football better than Georgia? Anyway, I go past a lot of farms, right? I was cruising, doing my things. It's a back road. Speed limit's 55. I'm going 65, feeling confident, bumping some music. Subwoofer's going. Anyway, I'm cruising, going 65. I'm not meandering. I'm not pedaling around. Man, this chicken blows by me. I mean it. Boom! And he's gone. I thought I was losing my mind, man. I was a little sleepy, but I was sober. I don't really take anything. I was like, how the hell did a chicken just fly by me? Anyway, I keep on driving. Eventually, I see this farm, and it is chicken coop after chicken coop after chicken coop. I had a little bit of a sixth sense, you can say, so I pulled over and I checked it out. I saw an old dude standing out there. I said, hey, man, you might think I'm insane for asking you this, but you ever seen anything, heard anything about a 3-legged chicken? And he said, yeah, I breed them that way. And I was taken aback. I said, what? You make 3-legged chickens? And he said, yeah. I said, why? He starts to tell me, well, I like chicken leg. My boy Billy likes chicken leg. My wife likes chicken leg. I figure if I can breed a chicken with 3 legs, we all get a meal out of one chicken. compared to having to put away 4 chickens for all of us to get a chicken leg. So anyway, we bullshit about that a little more. Excuse me, I'm trying not to curse if you haven't realized that. I have a potty mouth. I'm restraining myself for the algorithm, for you, so I can get to you. Anyway, we start talking about it, and I say, man, it might be a little morbid, but I have to ask. How does the 3-legged chicken taste? Is the 3rd leg a little different? Is it a little funky? He said, shit, I haven't caught one yet. With that, have a good day. I love you. God bless.